Welcome to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. This is a podcast for faithful women who want healing in their relationships, guidance from God, and internal peace. Each week, you'll hear mental health concepts taught through a spiritual lens from me, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, to help you start thinking in a higher and holier way. All right, welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited about who we have on the podcast today. We are talking about navigating divorce, and I have Adam Huddleston. I forgot to ask you if that's how you say your last name. Did I say it right? Okay.
It is. You got it.
All right, awesome. I have this fear about saying people's names wrong, and even when I ask them, I'm like, oh no, I didn't say that right. But welcome. He's a divorce attorney, and I had a podcast episode on a couple of months ago at the time of this recording with Bubba Page. We were talking about divorce, and Adam was so gracious to reach out, talk about the things that he liked about the episode, and as a divorce attorney gave some really good things that we could expand upon. And I just said, love it. Would you like to come on and talk about those? So Adam, welcome to the podcast. Do you want to introduce who you are and where you're from and tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me first. I don't even remember how I came across your podcast, but I remember just kind of tuning in because it was a member of the church talking about divorce. This is kind of odd to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to know what they say.
Yeah.
And just kind of give you an idea. I've been a lawyer almost 15 years now, barred back in 2010. I've been doing divorce law about 12 of that. I did criminal defense is what I got started in, and then you get people on probation. They ask you for help with child support, and then that leads into, can you help me see my kid more often?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, next thing you know, you're doing family law. And it just kind of fell into my lap like that.
Yeah.
So now I understand I'm in central Louisiana, a little town called Alexandria. If you look at the map, all roads lead to Alexandria. And there's nothing here. So I travel a lot. And it's kind of interesting because I was listening to your podcast with Bubba, and he made a comment that really caught my attention. And it's true from my perspective as an attorney. It's true from my personal life perspective. He said divorce is hell. And I said, yeah, it is. It's miserable. And then so that was kind of where I was like, well, what else does he have to say about this?
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of interested and I reached out and I was like, there was a lot more that he just doesn't have the knowledge to talk about because he isn't in the field.
Right, exactly.
And particularly with divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the church. My mom was raised in the church. My dad joined the church as a teenager. I served a mission. Number 9 out of 10 kids.
Wow.
All 6 boys served missions. 4 sisters. All 10 married in the temple.
Wow.
Only 1 divorced. And what I've traveled. I've met a lot of people, and what I've kind of picked up on is divorce is a kind of a taboo topic in the church. People don't like to talk about it.
Right.
It's kind of like, that's a dirty word. We don't talk about that. And to some degree, yes, right. It is kind of a dirty topic. But at the same time, it's a topic people need to understand because not all marriages are going to work out in this life, even temple marriages.
Right.
Sometimes people have to get divorced. They don't necessarily, you are not required to live your life in an abusive relationship. I think the brethren have been very, very clear on that point.
Exactly, yeah.
And forgiving does not mean putting yourself back into that situation.
Yeah.
I was actually planning to talk about that later, but
in
my notes, but it just kind of came out. So, but people need to understand, like, you are not required to live that way. The Lord does not expect you to live that way. And so divorce itself, people in the church, people just don't understand it. They don't understand the process. It's not something, and to the church's credit, to our our attention to families, divorce is less common in the church than it is outside the church. Thank goodness.
Right. Yeah.
But like with a temple marriage, you have expectations, temple worthy spouse, temple worthy marriage from this life into the next.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody just doesn't live up to that.
Right.
For whatever reason it is, everybody's got their own reasons. And understand those abusive marriages, those abusive relationships, they are the exception to the rule. The rule generally is somebody's not fulfilling the expectations of the other spouse.
Mm.
So before you start thinking about marriage, I always talk to, because when I first get a call, particularly with church members, number one, they're always nervous,
Yeah.
because, oh my goodness, I have failed in some way.
Mm. Yeah.
Not necessarily. Maybe you
Yeah.
did do everything you can do.
Yeah.
So I always kind of give them a couple of pieces of advice that I don't give non-members.
Mhm.
Number one is make sure that your conscience is clean about this. If this is what you want to do, you make sure that you are in your heart that you're okay with it. And if you're not yet, then you do what you feel you need to do to have a clear conscience about it. So if that is setting your spouse down and saying, these are my expectations, these are my needs, and this isn't what's being met, and maybe your spouse changes. Great, you got your spouse back.
Yeah.
You don't need me.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Right.
Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they look at you and they say, well, I'm not living my life like that. And they make the decision for you. And then other times they say, I'm not going to live my life like that. And now you have to make the decision. And I like to, in my opinion, I think divorce is worse than death. It's harder than losing someone. Luckily, my parents are still alive. They're in their 80s, but I've lost all of my grandparents, all but one, all of my aunts and uncles except for one, who's on his third pacemaker.
Well,
Go figure that one.
yeah.
Uh, I've been to a lot of funerals,
Yeah.
and you never get to take it with you. And it's the people who stay behind that feel it, and they get to say goodbye, and they get to send you on your way. They get closure.
Yeah.
When you get divorced, you don't.
Yeah.
Most of the time, particularly when you have kids, you don't get closure. You still have to see that person all the time.
Mm.
And so when you're leading up to that decision, make sure you have a clean conscience about it.
Yeah.
And that comes in a lot of different facets. That's very personal to the person making the decision. Couple of pitfalls and couple of warnings on that. And this is number one when it comes to church leaders. No church leader should be telling you, yes, you should or should not be getting divorced. That's not their role.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think
Yeah.
you're supposed to say, yes,
Yeah.
you
Right.
should.
Yes.
I'm certainly not supposed to.
Yeah.
My job is to tell you what the consequences of each decision are and let you make an informed choice.
Yeah.
And once you choose a course of action, okay, now you need my services. So what to expect once you've hired the attorney.
Yeah.
Everybody has this ideal that, oh, we can be friendly and we can get along. Yeah, you're the unicorn. I see about two of them a year.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they can for the most part. And then the petition gets filed, or the other side finds out you spoke to an attorney, and the ugliness comes out. And now my paralegal's getting a phone call, I don't understand why they're behaving this way. And she's going back and looking at my notes saying, well, Mr. Huddleston had, warned you and told you this was a possibility.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by exceptions to the rule. The general rule is the other side's going to be ugly
Yeah.
and it's going to hurt your feelings and it sucks and it's miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And each state has their own individual rules on how long you have to be separated and living separate and apart before you can finalize the divorce. Louisiana's rules are based on whether you have kids or not. No
Yeah.
kids, you got to live separate and apart 180 days. If you have kids, it's 365.
Wow.
Think about that for a minute. I got to go a whole year dealing with this person.
Yeah.
And now, again, each state has their own system of family courts. Louisiana, the Supreme Court about 10 years ago said, actually, might have been 20 years ago at this point, said experiment, figure out what works for your district. So we've got about out of 64 parishes, counties, um, we've got probably 30 different methods of doing family
Wow.
court.
That's
It's
crazy.
nothing's uniform and it's nuts.
Yeah.
And you might come into my office and and I might be giving you advice based on one county because this is the way they do their family court system, or the next potential client comes in and I'm giving them completely different advice for the same
Wow.
situation
So
because
true.
their family court works different.
Yeah.
So that stress is the most stressful thing you're going to ever go through
Yeah.
personally, because it's the death of a relationship, and it's a relationship that you had expectations of being for eternity. And that doesn't die easily. And
Yeah.
it doesn't die quickly. And it hurts.
Yeah.
And your dear wonderful stages of grief. The stages of denial generally have occurred before you're in my office.
Yeah.
I'm generally getting you in the stage of anger.
Yeah.
And so now I'm somebody who's angry.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm having to navigate those emotions.
Yeah.
Now take the family, and you've got kids involved, and different age kids have different needs. And take church, church families, we tend to be a little bit
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
By the time I came around, my oldest sister was 14 years old. By the time my younger
Yeah.
brother came around, she's almost, actually, she was 16. I
Yeah.
don't have any memories of her in the house. By the time I
Yeah.
have memories, she was off at college.
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute and put that into perspective with, with a family that's been married for 17 years and has 5 kids.
Right.
You have 5 children, or 2 or 1, but they all have different needs because they're all different age groups. You're in the middle of this emotional roller coaster, and you're being told by your attorney, okay, now we have to, I need you to be an adult and tell me what we're going to do for these children. And you're in no emotional state to make that call. And the court system generally is telling you, no, no, we got to know now.
Yeah.
So then compound it. What if finances are an issue? Spousal support. Louisiana, I think the other 49 call it alimony. We
Hmm.
we got rid of that word about 20 years ago because apparently it got some faux pas attached to it. Spousal support, it's alimony.
Yeah.
So, but child support, spousal support, who's going to live in the house? Who's going to pay the house note? What about your cars? Who's paying the car insurance? Nowadays you got cell phones. Who's paying that
Mhm.
bill? Um, you got families now, boats,
Mhm.
heck, timeshares on vacation spots.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to pay those bills.
Yeah.
And in the church, quite often, you have a single parent income. And yes, there are homes with dual incomes. Those create their own separate set of
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
Um, because y'all are used to pooling it together and we pay the bills. Okay. But well, Jimmy needs braces and this gets paid. And you're angry and you're not, you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
emotionally compromised. And the court system is now saying, make a decision.
Yeah.
We've got to figure. And a lot of people want to, and this is going to sound like I'm preaching for a minute, but I'm not. They want to argue with their attorney over it.
Yeah.
And the attorney's looking at you saying, look, I'm not emotionally compromised by your situation. I'm looking at the larger picture, and I'm also getting CLEs every year, you're continuing legal education every year with these studies that are being done nationwide by these universities on how children being affected by divorce. It's the Ohio University system has had a study going since the early to mid 90s
Oh, wow.
tracking divorce, the kids through divorce and into adulthood and into university. And the uh, the last time I looked at it, it was a couple of years ago. But what they were finding was obviously your children from intact two parent households perform the best. They're the most socialized. They're the best educated. Performing homeschool, public school, private school didn't really matter. They were your cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Your next level, this is going to be the part that blows everybody's mind, were the parents that got 50-50 that got along. And statistically, they're just about the same because they have the influence of both parents.
Yeah, that's true.
But the next group is the kids that do 50-50 with parents that don't get along. And that was actually kind of one of the topics I brought up with you was
Yeah.
um, sometimes, co-parenting is great. Sometimes you have to parallel parent.
Hmm.
It's wonderful if you can co-parent. Some people can set their personal issues aside for the best interest of their children. I was about 7 years ago in a custody trial, and we had a children's psychologist there testifying from the stand, and it was a horrible case. I was catching it about 5 years into it, so I tell you how long it was going. Involved three kids, and one of the parents, through some really, really shady lawyering on the opposite side 5 years beforehand, had been excluded from the kids' lives.
Mm.
And lo and behold, come to find out a few years later, the grandma, mom of that party, of that parent, is being allowed visitation with grandkids. And one of the grandkids, the oldest grandkid who remembers this parent, sees the photo of the parent and just breaks into tears because she's been told that parent is deceased.
Mm.
And grandma now opens up Pandora's box. Oh no, honey. Picks up the phone, calls that parent and says, you need to come over to my house. Now we've got the whole ball of
Wow.
wax is opened up, custody's reopened, and you were bringing the child psychologist in, and he's interviewed everybody, and one of the things he was telling the judge is like, what these two parents don't understand is, and he used the word forgiveness. He says, and he point blank said, and I love this definition, and I think it's something that we members of the church need to be able to adopt and adapt in when things are outside of church. Is forgiveness isn't necessarily letting the other person's behavior go. It's loving your children more than you hate the other parent.
Mm.
And so you're able to make decisions that your children need despite the other parent's shortcomings.
Yeah.
And that becomes a problem,
Yeah.
particularly with custody cases, because you're still in the middle of the grief cycle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
more often than not, you're in the anger stage, and that's a long stage in a divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every single stage of divorce tends to set you back because what happens 6 weeks after court and the other side's not following the court order anymore?
Yeah.
And I still got 4 more months to go before I can divorce you and get my judgment of divorce. And every time something happens, you get set back and you get triggered. I hate that word, but
Yeah.
it's apt. You get set on all over
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
and you never get closure, or at least you feel like you're never getting closure. And that hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And while your attorney is taking away the stress of the legal side of it, or he's as much as he can,
Yeah.
and good attorneys do that. That's what we and look, it's a small group of people that do family law. So when you see us at
Yeah.
court talking with one another, being polite, I got 12 other cases with that
Yeah.
attorney.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, believe me, we can be ugly with one another in the courtroom, you know, across from those
Yeah.
tables from one another. We're going to go have lunch together
Yeah.
because we're professionals. And what's needed in your case may not be needed in what's in, you know, may not be what's needed for Jimmy's case,
Yeah.
you know, and Jane's case may be different than your case. So I'm going to tailor my actions to you for what's needed at the time.
Yeah. So one of the things
Now,
that I really liked
yeah,
that you brought up too is that, that you're bringing up a lot of facets of divorce, right? Like there's lots of things that are happening, which brings up lots of emotions for
in
people,
a very
right?
short amount of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And you're getting pounded with these emotions. And one of the things I really like that you brought up is that making sure that you're processing these emotions and feeling them as they're coming up so that they're probably not building up. I call it the volcano effect, right? Is that
Um,
you're saying all of these things are happening, and if you're just kind of going through and trying to and being in survival mode and not processing these emotions, you can feel a lot of this buildup, and that anger and those emotions can take over, and you're not going to show up and do the best thing for your family or for your kids and be able to be that parent that you want to be.
and you know, from my personal experiences, in fact, women are better at processing the emotions than men because
Mm.
we're taught you cut your leg off with a chainsaw. You know, I'm all right. Pick my leg up, throw it, you know, put it on the ice chest.
Yeah.
Let's go to the hospital, and you
Yeah.
know, men don't cry. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's how we're
Yeah.
raised. You fell down
Yeah.
on your bike, gashed your leg, get up, walk it off,
Hmm.
rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
And I know most of your listeners are sisters or
Yeah.
females, but
Yeah.
they tend to process emotions better than we do.
Yeah.
And men tend to have that volcano effect of more often of
Yeah.
they finally hit that point where they've had enough
Yeah.
and they just and they just lash out.
Yeah.
20 minutes later, they're coming back apologizing. And look, that happens in regular relationships because
Yeah.
one, we people think men don't feel emotions. Men do. And
Yeah.
they feel them very, very profoundly and very deeply. It's hard to process sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I I've got a couple of things that I do to process my emotions. Number one is I make sure I'm at the gym every day but Sunday.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's for my mental health. But you know, it also has to do with my physical health.
Hmm.
I feel better when I'm working out and exercising.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of it is for my mental health
Yeah.
because I think better, and when I can turn my brain off and just do the work, when I turn my brain back on, it has solutions,
Yeah.
not only
Yes.
to my
Exactly.
problems,
Yeah.
but to my clients' problems.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, one of the things, yeah, I popped in on one of your lessons there earlier,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you were talking about having that quiet time
Hmm.
and being able to listen to the spirit during that time. There's a lot of banging and noise, music that goes on in the gym, and yet for me, that's my quiet time. I've got my lifting coach right there in my ear talking to, but my brain is able to turn off and I'm able to process everything that's going on in the world and you know with clients and personal life and partners because I have two
Yeah.
law partners that
Yeah.
sometimes we disagree on things. We have two associates that we manage. You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at buying a building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot going on in the world, and your life will always have things going
Yeah.
on. And My dad used to always say, things never happen. It's never convenient when something
Yeah.
happens.
Yes.
Nothing
Yeah.
ever happens when it's convenient.
Right.
Divorce is never
Exactly.
convenient, ever.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and what give as much of it as away to your legal counsel as you can. He cannot
Yeah.
take he or she, they can't take all your stress away, but they can
Yeah.
take a lot of it.
Yeah.
Let them deal with deadlines. Let them when they give you one and they tell you I need something, but just deliver it by the
Yeah.
deadline. Let them deal
Yeah.
with getting with the other side. Let them deal with the court. Don't get in their way, but
Yeah.
be attentive and be present when they need you.
I like that. And I like the other part that you said that I had never heard this term before, but it makes a lot of sense. Is you said co-parenting is great, but sometimes you need parallel parenting. Can you talk a little bit about what
Oh,
parallel parenting is?
so I don't even know if that's a real thing. I just kind of
I
made it
love it.
up.
I think it's great. Yeah.
Um, okay, so we all know what co-parenting is. Little Jimmy's got a baseball game. It's dad's time for visitation or custody, whatever your area calls it. It's dad's time. Little Jimmy's got a baseball game and he forgot his socks. Be a co-parent and show up with his socks at the ballpark. Be able to, if you can't sit beside each other, at least be able to sit on the sidelines and not be rude to one another.
Yeah.
That that tends to come up when somebody brings a new girlfriend or boyfriend more
Yeah.
often than not. Typically, until there's a new significant other, people can generally be polite. Once the new significant other comes into play,
Yeah. Can be really
now
hard.
it's when that person's not going to be a new daddy for my kid, or that person's not going to be a new mama for. Just relax.
Hmm.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Relax, calm down. But that's co-parenting. Jimmy needs braces. Well, how are we going to pay for this? Well, the insurance is going to pay X. That
Hmm.
leaves Y left over. Well, if your attorneys did their jobs, if they've gotten that far, your child support order is going to tell who pays what. So just do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Just follow the court order. And don't worry about, hey, I paid my what, I'm ordered to pay 80%. I paid my 80%. Mom didn't pay her 20. And the orthodontist calls you and says, hey, we're still $400 short and we're 2 months behind on payments.
Yeah.
You know what? In the grand scheme of things, it ain't that big a deal. Pay it, bring the receipt to your attorney and let them deal with it when they finalize the divorce. It's not that big a deal. But people make big deals out of it because they're hurt and they're angry.
Yeah.
Just relax. It's
Yeah.
okay. Now, if you don't have the ability to do that, look, I'm not going to ask you to do something that you can't do.
Yeah.
But if you have the ability and it's not going to cause you severe, financial stress, take care of it. Bring your attorney the receipt and let him deal with it.
Yeah.
Co-parenting is getting along. Hey, Jimmy's having a problem at school. Teacher wants to meet with us and see what's going on. Go sit down with the other parent, meet with or on the phone with the teacher and say, look, we're going through it. Tell them what's going on. We're going through a divorce.
Hmm.
Jimmy's struggling with it. We both noticed it. What can you do to help us so that we can help you have a better, educational environment? That's what I mean when I say co-parenting.
Yeah.
Now, parallel parenting, my term.
Yeah.
I don't even like I said, I don't even know if that's a real term or
Yeah.
not. I just made it up one day,
Yeah.
talking with a client. Sometimes parents just cannot talk to each other. They can't communicate with each other. We actually have apps that are designed around around. You're
Yeah.
probably very familiar with Our
Yep.
Family Wizard.
Yeah.
That's our favorite one here. There's two or three others, but Our Family Wizard tends to be the one we use more than anything else in Louisiana. So that's the one I'm most familiar with.
Yeah.
That's for the parents that can't get along, can't communicate. You got to put everything on the calendar. You got to document every text message because the other side, and not everybody's a narcissist. We like to say
Yeah.
they are, but not everybody's a narcissist.
Yeah.
Some people are just jerks.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people are just selfish.
Yeah.
That doesn't make them a narcissist.
Right.
Narcissist is it's a personality disorder,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Um, let them get diagnosed before you
Yeah.
call them that. Because
Yeah.
otherwise your attorney's going to start looking at you going, okay, you're being unreasonable.
Yeah.
Tell them the traits this person's engaging in. Tell them the behaviors. Maybe your attorney needs to say, hey, okay, well, that might be enough to ask for him to be tested.
Yeah.
Leave it to the court.
Yeah.
Some people are just selfish.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We can deal with that. And the way we deal with it is the rules at your house are the rules at your house, and the rules at my house are the rules at my house. And what I send with the child is comes back to my house, and what you send, what the child brings from your house goes back to your house. And that's just the way we have to deal with it.
Yeah. And that's the
And
parallel parenting.
and that's the parallel parenting,
Yeah.
like take a 50-50 scenario where it's 1 week on and 1 week off. And that is far better, in my opinion, than the 2-2-3. The two two
Yeah.
three just is for the parents, it might be great. For the kids, once they're in school, they never get home.
Yeah.
And home is not, and this is, even church members forget this. Home is not a place physically. Home is an emotion. That word is an emotional word. It is an emotional connection. And when I ask a parent or maybe a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, the judge wants to meet with them and we go to the back. Hey, Johnny, where's home? They don't typically say a location. They point to a parent and they say wherever that parent is.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's dad, sometimes it's
Yeah.
mom, but
Yeah.
home is wherever that one is. That's home. When Johnny, when I ask you where is home, which one of your parents is there? That one. That one's the one that's there. And it's the emotional attachment to home. It's not a house, not an apartment. It's where the family is. And understand what you're doing to the kids when you get divorced too. You're tearing apart their family. So everything that they've been taught, they're going through all the same things you're going through.
Mhm.
Yes, you lost your best friend. They lost a parent.
Yeah.
And we as adults too often forget about them and what they're going through. And sometimes we're not emotionally in a position where we can be available to them.
Yeah.
That's sometimes the case. And you
Yeah.
might be the right parent for the children, but you might be so emotionally wrecked at the moment that you can't, like, that it's impossible to show.
Yeah.
But the kids know that's home.
Yeah.
But you're emotionally wrecked.
I like that. I like thinking about parallel parenting as, yes, I'm having emotions, and yes, we're going through this difficult thing, but I also want to look at what can I do for my child to also help them through these emotions. And I think I kind of want to move on to like the last part
Yeah.
here, kind of wrap it up a little bit. But one of the last things that you said was, I think, really helpful especially to hear from a divorce attorney. I loved that you said this is the Lord has not forgotten you and there's peace down the road. Do you want to just kind of say something quick about that?
So let me kind of bring it back to the kids for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because you asked the question, what can we do for them? Because
Yeah.
they're going through the same emotional roller coaster you're going through. They're also watching you be hurt and go through
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And so their emotional roller coaster it's the same ride, but a different track.
Yeah.
And what you've got to remember, and there's so kind of, I'll talk a little bit about my personal life, not much. Um, I had two wonderful, law partners who helped navigate me through through the whole process.
Mhm.
because I was completely like I was emotionally compromised.
Yeah.
The lawyer that represents himself as a fool for a client.
Yeah.
We that is a we are taught that in law school. If
Yeah.
you represent yourself, you're a fool.
Yeah.
Get help. Well, who's the greatest help giver? Who's the source of peace and calm and quiet? And when you forget that, life gets really, really dark.
Yeah.
And you can get lost in the darkness and you can lose yourself. I had a sister who sent me a picture of the Savior dipping his hand into the water.
Mm. I
And
love
it's
that one.
your hand lifting, and he's reaching down to pick you up
Yeah. Yeah.
because a lot of times you feel like you're drowning.
Yeah.
It's just, it is the worst thing you will go through in your life. It is an
Yeah.
awful, horrible experience. And step one, get back to having family prayer at night,
Mm.
even if it's only once. Even if the kids grouch and grumble, set a night, do it every night, or set one, start with one night, just
Yeah.
get a family prayer,
Yeah.
get back to it. Personally, even if all you can do is read one verse, get back into the Book of Mormon. The New Testament's great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love the four
Yeah.
gospels,
Yeah.
but the Book of Mormon brought more peace.
Yeah.
And just in my private practice, I've done this since I became a lawyer. Is I start my day every day with 2 chapters of the Book of Mormon. I come into the office about 45 minutes before everybody else. I've
Mhm.
always done that. You got to get back to it personally. Get back into your prayers. And you know what? Get back to the temple and get back to the celestial room and put it on the Lord. If you're angry, tell him you're angry. If you're
Mhm.
hurt, tell him you're hurt.
Yeah.
Put it on him.
Yeah.
Promise you he can handle it. He's got big, broad shoulders. And eventually, what you get is you get what Alma's people started to get when they were being persecuted. You start to get stronger, and the burden starts to become lighter and lighter, and you're able to bear it up and carry it.
Yeah.
And eventually, you get to a point, and people want things to happen overnight. I want it now.
Yeah.
Peace doesn't come now because you still have to deal with that person.
Yeah.
You never get away. Even when your kids are old and graduated high school, guess what? You're going to have marriages and grandkids. You
Yes.
still have to
Yes.
see that person and deal with that
Yep.
person.
Yep. Yeah.
But the Lord makes it easy. And when you let him get involved, when you let him be personal, he gets very personal and he will ease the burden and ease the pain. And eventually, what you find is that you're able to look at the other person and say, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
And you're able to walk away and move on.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're able to forgive. It doesn't necessarily, again, don't confuse that
Yeah.
with allowing them back into your inner
Yeah.
circle.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah.
That's where setting boundaries comes in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and, you know, you got to know your boundaries
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
nothing will wreck your peace like not setting boundaries.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
um,
Adam, thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing and opening up personally too about that. I think people can really connect with that. And I, in the mental health world, feel like the greatest healer to your mental health is the Savior. Like my job is to point people towards the Savior because he's the true healer and to remove all barriers to him. And I feel like that's truly in divorce too, right? That
Oh,
there's
yeah.
things that you just are out of your control, and the only thing that you can do is turn to the Lord. And so I appreciate your testimony of that, and I appreciate your time, taking your time to share your thoughts and wisdom on this. I think it's going to be really helpful for people. So thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you
Anytime,
said.
and you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. I hope you were able to find ways of healing, guidance, and peace. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend who would love to start thinking in a higher and holier way as well. Or hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any episodes. Also, check out the links in my show notes for other episodes you might like, and links for other mental health resources on my website.